Very good evening and welcome to Beyond the Headlines. I'm Tamanna Inamdar. The GST is considered one of the biggest reforms that India has implemented in the last decade. The promise is that it is a good and simple tax, brings in a system of one nation, one tax, makes life easier for businesses and goods and services cheaper for all Indians. Now, whether it has achieved all those goals or not is not the discussion this evening. The question today is, will GST survive in its current form after a landmark ruling of the Supreme Court today? Simply put, the Supreme Court has now said that recommendations of the GST Council are not binding on union and states. Recommendations of the GST Council will have persuasive value. These are the key portions of what the Supreme Court has said today. They've also said that centre and states can equally legislate on matters of the GST. Centre and states can't act independent of each other. They've also said that any recommendations are a product of collaborative discussion. Now, before we get into why the Supreme Court said this and what was the case before it, I just have to quickly talk about the GST Council itself. It has 31 members. It includes all states and union territories as representatives. It is headed by the Finance Minister of the country, which is Nirmala Sitharaman, and has 2 more representatives of the central government. Decisions are finally made through a vote. 75% have to vote, and 1/3 of the vote is with the central government. So, what is the genesis of this particular judgment today? A company called Mohit Minerals that imports coking coal into the country had moved the Gujarat High Court against a GST tax notice that they were slapped with. Their contention was that they were subjected to double taxation because the value of what they imported included the freight cost, that's what they had paid, but they were still taxed separately on freight. The Gujarat High Court ruled in their favour. The central government challenged it in the Supreme Court. So, while it's a great day for Mohit Minerals, what does it mean now for the GST? The other backdrop to this that you should know is that the GST Council of late has seen a lot of friction, a lot of acrimony. Opposition ruled states especially have been coming out and saying that they're not treated fairly in the GST Council, that their view is not taken into account. So the question is now, after this, after the Supreme Court has come out and said that effectively what the GST Council decides is a recommendation, it's not bounding, does the GST Council then become toothless? Is it likely that there will be more disagreements within the GST Council? Will old issues like revenue share and votes resurface? So, for example, states which produce more say that they should get more tax, not the same as states which consume more. Some states also say that why should we have one vote per state? Should more populous states not get more than one vote? Will all of these issues just resurface? The other thing that is likely to happen is companies that have got all of these GST notices now are possibly going to challenge them and go to court, citing this particular judgment. What we're going to try and understand today is what really are the implications. Speaking to me now are Dr TS Deo. He is Health Minister of the state of Chattisgarh and Council member of the GST Council. I'm also speaking this evening with Srinivas Kotni, who's a senior practitioner and advocate in trade laws and someone who's very passionate about the journey of GST so far. Welcome to both of you, and thank you so much for joining us this evening on Beyond the Headlines. Minister Deo, let me begin by getting your first response to what the Supreme Court has said today. It has been welcomed in some quarters, namely from opposition state finance ministers, saying that this finally gives breathing space to cooperative federalism. Do you agree with that?
Tamanna ji, I'm frankly, the minute I heard this, or read it in fact, I was very happy and relieved, because increasingly in the GST Council, unfortunately from the time when Mr. Jaitley was chairing the GST Council, where I was very surprised as a member of the opposition. I think there were probably not more than 3 or 4 ministers representing non-BJP or non-NDA states. And at that point in time, when I saw, not just heard, when I saw participating in the meeting, that he ensured that even if there was one state which was differing, the matter was kept pending till everybody came on board. From there, I was very surprised. I didn't expect that. Party lines and this and that. I didn't expect that. And that is the GST Council, which one feels may be of some purpose as far as the national federal structure is concerned. Lately, we have degenerated into majoritarianism. It appears to me as a GST Council member, when I go there, that many decisions have probably already been taken outside the GST Council, and matters come up and we are, this is this, and it is supposed to be passed. So from the initial beginnings to today's situation in the GST Council, I was very happy and very relieved that the Supreme Court, through its judgment, laid proper stress and complete stress on the federal nature of our polity, federal nature of our constitution,
right,
which sometimes seems to fall into the background. That was one aspect. The other aspect, if you would ask later, would be the taxes.
I'm going to come right away to that, sir. And just to mention here that the late Mr. Jaitley's ability to bring everyone together has been legendary. And it is actually him who managed to bring the GST Council together as a system and implement GST. But it has to be a structure which lasts. And will it now? After this Supreme Court judgment, some of the questions people are asking today, does this render the GST Council toothless? If its decisions are not binding, what does that mean in practical terms? Could you shed some light on that, sir?
So if the honorable judges today have brought focus onto that, what are they saying? They are saying that according to Article 246A, both Parliament and state legislature have equal power to legislate on matters of indirect taxation. And further they say, GST Council is a recommending body which have a persuasive value on the union and states and in no way impine on the powers of state to legislate on the subject on which simultaneous power has been given. So this is what we have to see when we talk about teeth of the GST Council. The GST Council is not envisioned to have teeth. It is envisioned to be a recommending body which has persuasive value. Mr. Jaitley, persuasive value. Till everybody agrees, we will not go ahead on this. 99 people are saying yes, but one person is saying no. So till that one person is either convinced or is on board, we will not go ahead. See, that is the letter and spirit and the persuasive value which is envisioned in the constitution of a GST Council. Can a council supersede the elected members of parliament, the elected members of a legislature, a state legislature? They cannot. So to think even that the GST Council should have such powers which supersede constitutional powers allocated to the center and the state, that I don't think, unfortunately, is how things lie.
Okay.
The GST Council cannot be seen to be above these bodies.
But it still brings me back to my question, and let me come to Mr. Srinivas Kotni on this for a bit. What does this mean? What are the implications? Because the GST Council, as we understand it, is a collection of states headed by the finance minister. But yes, you have representatives of all states on that council, and they do come to decisions after debating and arguing and making up their minds. Now, if those decisions are just recommendations or persuasive in nature, what does that practically mean? Does it mean, for example, that state A can tomorrow say that I want to charge a different rate when it comes to SGST on XY item? Can that happen?
Thank you, first of all, for inviting me on this show. I've got very strong views on this. GST, we have to understand, it is to unify the entire nation into one nation, one tax concept. And my learned friend is telling that when Mr. Jaitley was there, he was taking care of every opinion, right? I mean, that is how the functioning of the GST Council, how it happens is a different thing. But at the end of the day, we have to understand that GST Council is a constitutional body, which has got constitutional teeth. It has been functioning not now for last 5 years. and I don't think without much of pressure. And as far as common citizens are concerned, professionals are concerned, we were under the impression that when GST Council decisions and minutes were coming in, it is well thought out, discussed, and decided. And we live in a democratic setup. So therefore, if you start looking at every one person, and for political reasons, if somebody is trying to shelve something or oppose something just for the heck of it, that is a different thing. But then just to make it teethless, I'm not at all questioning the legality of the judgment or the legal wisdom behind it, but I'm only on the practicality of it. On ground, what is going to happen? So therefore, it is definitely going to create havoc with respect to exemptions, with respect to procedures, with respect to opinions, with respect to interpretations under the GST provisions. So therefore, look, I agree that both the union and the state legislatures have the power to pass legislations on GST. That is fine. But then at the end of the day, the Constitution said that, look, let us not leave them. If you leave both the institutions, both the center and the states to do their own bidding, then what happens is that what it used to be earlier, we had multiple taxations, multiple procedures.
Let me take that question to Mr. Deo. So that's the concern. Do we go back to pre-GST days? Effectively, what happens to one nation, one tax? What happens if, the representative of a particular state does not agree within the GST Council? Does that state then have the power now, and will they go ahead and overturn that decision?
Tamanna ji, what is all this about? All this is about finances to the central government and finances to the state government. Finances in the terms of revenues. How we can rationalize and institutionalize tax collections, indirect tax collections, so that we've talked about net revenue, neutral rates, etc. The interests of the government of India as well as the interests of the state governments are kept in mind and are ensured. Without tax money, without financial resources, without revenues, no government can function. So that is the starting point, that there should be revenue. How should this revenue be collected? You collect it through rates. How are these rates to be fixed? Should they be random? Should every state have different rates? So can you have one rate? When you have one rate, then you fix the system of revenue collection through the GST regime. What are you doing for the central government resources? What are you doing for the state government resources? What does the Supreme Court say in its decision today? There are two significant, I'm trying to bring into focus what my friend on the panel mentioned. There are two significant parts of GST Council voting structure. Union has 1/3 vote share and 2/3 are with the states. Now we know that for anything to pass by vote, you have to have 75% vote share if it comes to voting, which means that under no circumstance can any legislation in the GST Council or any decision in the GST Council be made unless the central government says yes. One. So how does that impact the federal structure of the country? How does it impact the federal structure? Question number one. And very well answered today, I think, by the Supreme Court. Second, the GST Council is an area of political contestations as well, and it impacts federalism. I am not saying this. This is what the Honorable Supreme Court judge has ruled today. And this is what has been happening. It is not a matter of one person being from this party, one person being from the other party, right, and the minority being obstinate and saying, no, you are saying this, so we will not agree to that. Tomorrow there can be another party in the center and other parties could be in the opposition. So are we going to go by majoritarianism, or are we going to respect the federal structure of the Constitution? That is the basic issue. And as far as revenues are concerned, what is happening to the states? In the GST regime, we were assured, and that is the reason, one single reason if you take out, apart from rate rationalization in the country, one reason why everybody boarded the GST train was it was assured that there would be a 14% protected revenue escalation increase every year. And if you do not have a 14% revenue increase, then you will be compensated from the cess fund. Did it happen during these past 5 years? 2 years, we got only 10% protected revenue provisioning.
Right. So, Mr. Kotni, you've heard what the minister has said. Is it giving you a sense of what's coming next? Are we expecting fireworks in the next few GST Council meets, which have some very important decisions to take?
It's a very natural consequence. The moment you say that the GST Council decisions are not binding, it becomes a very non-serious constitutional body, right? And that too, for what reason? The court has given the reasons that there's no non-obstante clause in Article 279A, and Article 246A gives powers to both the state and the union to pass legislation. Technically, it sounds absolutely correct, and I don't fault with the technicality of the judgment. But how it will be transformed into the common man's life will be for everybody to see. I mean, I'm sure unless something is done at a consultative basis and in a very rapid basis, it will definitely have very serious ramifications. And it will definitely, instead of having a collaborative federalism, it will exactly be opposite. Because we know that in a democracy, you have to go along with some decision.
Yeah.
And the national decisions...
No, I want to come on the point of impact. We were talking earlier about whether this will impact rates. You mentioned that it will impact things like exemptions. Can you outline with examples of what kind of an impact we can actually see?
I mean, it is basically when you are in a GST council, why are those solitary state or 2 states or 3 states opposing certain things? They're opposing because it will have an impact on the state revenue. And it's a very valid argument. But at the end of the day, we have to understand that the nation comes first.
No, sir, I'm asking you, do these states, we're not telling them what to do. I'm asking you, do these states now legally have a right to reject those decisions and put in place their own?
I mean, if I read the judgment for whatever I've read as of now, exactly that is what is going to happen. And also there's some ambiguity. In some decisions are not binding. What does it mean? Some decisions are binding, so that there's no clarity on that. And then also it is only a persuasive body. I mean, whatever decisions are taken by the council, I mean, in the council, you have the union, and you have every state, every union territory, and they all sit together, the wise men, and decide for what? For some persuasive sermons? No, it was supposed to be binding. And that is why there's a constitutional teeth given. Maybe there may be something in the language, but the relief has to be more. I mean, the nation's interest has to be seen. So therefore, I don't know how it will be done, but then it has to be done rapidly before the GST goes the same way, or we go back to the dark ages of indirect taxes, multiple exemptions, multiple rules, multiple procedures, multiple forms, and then we have GST an online network. Everybody's on that network. Today we are seeing advanced rulings being issued by states. There's no legality in those judgments. So in fact, I am not advising anybody to go for advanced rulings at all, because if it has to be fair, it has to be judicious.
No, so effectively, if I understand this, and I want to break this down for our viewers, as of today, do you see the chance of states rushing to impose their own version of taxes on certain items? Can they do that? Will they do that?
From where I'm seeing now, as of now, with the limited research I've done, I see that as a certainty. It will definitely happen. Those states which want to create their own way with respect to tax collection, with respect to procedures, with respect to forms, with respect to many things, can go, because whatever GST Council is saying is not binding on them. So why is the GST Council meeting them? So I'm sure there has to be something done, because certain lacunae have been pointed out in the constitutional provisions which were brought in 2016. Those gaps have to be filled. So again, the parliament, it's national wastage of legislative resources. And also in between, in the interregnum, there'll be a lot of disharmony.
All right, we'll have to wait and see how this pans out in terms of the next GST Council meets. They have to decide on new categories to come into 28%. There's a clamor to perhaps reduce some taxes because of the hit of inflation. But, states are also suffering from a lack of revenue. So definitely a lot for them to talk about. And now at least opposition states armed with this judgment will have more to say. We'll have to see what the impact is finally on the common man.
We are not like the United States. We are not like US, where the states are completely independent. I mean, if you look at the way GST has been structured, it is verbatim. If you look
I think, Mr. Kotni, we'll have to leave it to how the Supreme Court has looked at it and how then it's further interpreted in practical terms. So we have to watch this space and see what happens next and whether GST survives this latest ruling. Thank you so much for speaking with us today.
Thank you.